ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय राधिकायै प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायण गोस्वामिनिति नामिने। श्रीकृष्णलीला कथने सुदक्षं औदार्य माधुर्य गुणैशयुक्तं वरं वरेण्यं पुरुषं महान्तं श्रीनारायणं त्वं शिरसा नमामि। त्रिदण्डिनां भक्तशिरोमणिं च श्रीकृष्णपदाब्जधृतये हृदि चैतन्यलीलामृतसारसारं नारायणं त्वं सततं प्रपद्ये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्याय नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। श्याम सुंदर शिखंड शेखर स्मेरहास मुरली मनोहर राधिका रसिक मां कृपा निधे स्वप्रिया चरण किंकरीं कुरु। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे तन्नय माम चरनन्तिके। भक्त्या विहीनापराधलक्षै क्षिप्ताश्च कामादितरङ्गमध्यै कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So first of all, I offer my unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of my most worshipable spiritual master, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedant Narayan Goswami Maharaj. My unlimited obeisances unto the divine lotus feet of Sachidanand Thakur Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by whose mercy we have received this amazing scripture Sri Jaiva Dharma. And then my humble obeisances to all the assembled devotees. Yes, Prabhuji. You raised your hand. Any?
Oh, sorry, that was a
Oh,
mistake. The Mac
no problem.
identifies the
Okay.
when I did this, it raised my hand. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. I thought there's something you wanted to say. Okay. So, by the causeless mercy of Shri Shri Guru and Gaurang, we have been studying Jaiv Dharam and now on the sixth chapter, towards the end of the sixth chapter now. And last time, the discussion, as you know, that's going on is whether those who are outside of the Varna system, so that would include anyone who is not born in a Hindu family, for example, and anyone in any other religion. In this case, was a Muslim Qazi to whom the Vaishnavas showed great respect, because of which Devidas became very disturbed and brought a group of Pandits to have an argument with the Vaishnavas. And the discussion again that they're having is that whether those who are not inborn by birth, who are not a Brahman or in the Varna system, are they qualified to become Vaishnavas? So last time we read this beautiful verse which is quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilas, where it says that by chanting the holy names of Krishna, Bhriguvar Narmatram Tarayat Krishna Nam, that the name of the Lord is so powerful. It says Nar Matram. It doesn't say that it can deliver people from a certain caste or community or religion. It says Nar Matram. Nar means any person is eligible to become free from all kind of doshas, all kind of defects, if he chants the holy name and become purified. So when Chudamani heard this, he said, this is what I meant by my previous question. His question was that how can Muslims who do not have any pious deeds from their past life, and according to them, that's the reason they have taken this birth, which in fact Vaishnav Das ji also agreed that our birth in a particular society, in a particular community, in a particular area, in a particular type of body is because of prarabdha karma. But then he had also said that if one has faith in one pointed devotion, and he quoted so many verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, that by that devotion, by Nitya Sukriti, one can develop bhakti and one can become purified. So these are two separate things. So one can have faith in bhakti because of sukriti from previous lives, even though one may have taken birth in a lowly family, which is from a social perspective. So now Chudamani says that if there is something called bhakti poshak sukriti, means sukriti that nourishes devotion, it must arise from some other type of sukriti. That means you have to, even to do that kind of pious deeds that will help develop bhakti, you must have done something other pious before that. But he says, since the Muslims do not have any other type of sukriti, so is it not possible for them? So, how is it possible for them to have that sukriti which will inculcate the mood of devotion? So, then Vaishnav Das ji explains that that is not true. And as he was explaining before, there is Nitya Sukriti, that type of Sukriti that gives eternal fruit of bhakti, and then Nimittik Sukriti, that Sukriti which is for a cause, and by after giving its result, it disappears. It does not actually give pure devotion. He says these are classified separately. There is absolutely no relationship with them. They do not depend on one another. And then he gives example of a hunter. So this is story which is given in Shiv Puran. So once there was a hunter, and being a hunter, he was doing all kind of sinful things, killing animals, killing other people also. So one time he went out for catching some prey, but whole day he was in the forest looking for some animal to kill, but for some reason he could not find any animals. He could not kill anyone. And he had thought that he would, kill some animal, bring back and cook the meat and eat it. So he didn't really even have any food or water with him. So he was in fact just, fasting without water or without food. And going around the forest, it became dark. Now it was not safe to go back. So he found there was a pond and there was a tree, and big tree, and this tree was of bale tree. So he climbed the tree and felt that I can just spend the night here. Now, unknown to him, there was a Shivlinga just below the tree, and that Shivlinga was covered by bale leaves. Now he's up there, and as he's moving, he moves from one, he's on a tree, so moves from one branch to another, the bale leaves would fall, and they would fall on Shivalinga. And there was also some little bit moisture or little bit water droplets, and they, as he would move or shake the tree with his movement, drops of water will also fall on the Shivalinga. Now, in the meantime, a deer came, a dove came, and then, as was wanting to have drinking water, he pulled out his bow and arrow, that now I have found a prey, I can kill this. But this deer prayed that, please let me go back to my family because my children are waiting for me. Let me feed them and I will come back. Now, because of that place, this person who never had any compassion in his heart, he for some reason felt a bit compassion, because he felt, well, I am stuck on this tree, that even if I kill this deer, I cannot do anything till the morning, so let me just wait. So he let the deer go. Couple of other deers from the same family came to drink water, and he similarly spared them. And throughout the night, he had no food to eat, no water to drink, but by his movements, these bay leaves and water droplets were falling on the shivling. Now, the morning came, and all these deers came. The whole family came and told him that, well, you spared our life. We are very thankful to you, but as promised, we have come back, and now, if you want, you can hunt us. And that's when he felt that these, being even animals, are so honest to their words, and I am a human, and how abominable I have come. So there was sense of mood of compassion, and he said, no, no, I don't want to kill you. Now, when he said this, and it so happened that it was Mahashivratri, the day we fast for Lord Shiva. It is next Sunday. So we should also, we always observe Mahashivratri by fasting like Ekadashi. So next Sunday is Mahashivratri. So that was Mahashivratri, and unknowingly he fasted the whole day because he did not know uh, that it was a fasting day, but he did that unknowingly, and also he was worshipping Lord Shiva the whole night by bay leaf. So Shivling is worshipped by pouring water or milk, and by bay leaves are offered to Lord Shiva, and he was doing that again unknowingly, and then he showed this mood of compassion. Simply by this, Lord Shiva appeared, and he said, I am very happy with your worship, and he blessed him with bhakti, with Hari Bhakti, here it says. So, by the mercy of Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, he is the greatest among all the Vaishnavas. So, by his mercy, this hunter who had no previous um, history of performing any pious deeds, specifically any sukriti related to bhakti, he doing this unknowingly to Lord Shiva, he became eligible for bhakti. So then he says, from this statements, it is understood that Mahadev is most worshipable Vaishnav, and one obtains Hari Bhakti by observing a vow to please him. So he's saying here is an example where someone who was actually for doing all kind of impious activities but became an elevated devotee by doing something unknowingly. Same is the story of Prahlad. He actually fought with his beloved and went to a place which was actually an old temple of Lord Nrsimhadev, and it was in a dilapidated condition. It was, not even a proper temple. No worship was being done, but it used to be a temple of Lord Nrsimhadev. He stayed there all night, upset with his beloved because they had a fight, and the whole night he didn't eat, he didn't drink any water, and there was some puja going on, and he was just hearing the chanting the whole night. He did not even go and participate, but simply by this, in his next life, he was born as the son of Hiranyakashipu, even though born in a demon family, but because of this Sukriti that he had done, he got the um, he got the facility of hearing from Sri Narad Rishi while in the womb of his mother Kayadu. Right? For 60,000 years, he heard Hari Katha and then became such a powerful devotee right from childhood. Such a ardent devotee of the Lord that he was not even scared from Hiranyakashipu. So many such examples are there. So when Chudamani heard this, So he says, does that mean this Nitya Sukriti, this Sukriti which gives the eternal fruit of bhakti, comes about by chance, right? So then Vaishnav Das ji says, everything comes about by chance. And this is also the case on the path of karma. What is the circumstance by which the jiva first entered the cycle of karma? Now, this is a question that everyone has, all of us have had, and people will ask Shri Gurudev and all the acharyas that how did we come into this world? Why did we come here? Of course, the explanation that is given is that we were in the marginal potency, and from there, we being attracted or being inimical to Krishna and being attracted by illusory uh, energy fell down into the material world. Because of our conditioned state, of course, we can't understand. So this is explained, and of course, this is true. But now the question then comes, some of the living entities went to the spiritual world, some came here. So why was that? Now, well, he says, the best you can say this was by chance because this is not by Krishna's desire. Some by their own desire came here, some went to the spiritual world. So it was that circumstance by which the jiva first entered the cycle of karma. Can it be anything other than a chance occurrence? Now, the words are very difficult to, in words, very difficult to explain the this very secretive truth of how we got conditioned in the first place, right? But as we do bhajan and as we get the blessings of the acharyas, these answers are manifested within our heart. So, but he's saying, at the best you can say that was also by chance. And those who are the followers of Mimamsa philosophy, one of the six darshans, they also say that karma is anadi. So they basically say, as we have discussed before, that for them, karma is the prime thing. And everyone, even including the Lord, is acting under the influence of karma. But he says that is not true because karma also has a beginning, it does have a root. And what is that root? Why did we fall in the first place? कृष्ण बहिर्मुख जीव भोग वांछा करे निकटस्थ माया तारे झापटी अधरे. That when the living entity wants to enjoy independent of the Lord and wants to enjoy sense gratification independent of him, then the illusory energy which is right there grabs him and he falls into the cycle of karma. So he says, similarly, Nitya Sukriti also to be a chance occurrence. So just like that, even now, sometimes, of course, it is also explained that this is also by the mercy of the Lord. So it can be a chance, it can be a mercy of the Lord. But why someone? Now, of course, it's not always chance. It could also be because of our previous previous sanskars. But what he's explaining is that many times it's all by chance. Like I was, last time we were giving an example, there are devotees going for Nagar Sankirtan, and someone is sitting in his house, and there he hears the holy name. So it just so happened that they went through that street, and this person sitting in his house heard the holy name, and that's how some Sukriti was accrued. So he says that can happen by chance, and then he quotes one verse from Shweta Shavatar Upanishad, and a very famous verse. Let me share this. Where it says, Samane vrikshe purushah nimagnaho, nimagno hi anishaya shochati muhyamanah, jushtam yada pashyati anyam isham asya mahimanam eti vita shokah. So here he is describing that how the soul and the super soul, they are compared to two birds that are sitting on branch of a tree. What is this tree? The human body, and within the heart there is the soul and the super soul. They're both sitting there together. And what is each one of them doing? The jiva, the living entity, that bird has turned his face away from the Lord, the super soul, and is enjoying material sense gratification. And therefore, he is suffering in the material world. Whereas the Lord, as a witness, is observing all his activities. But then he says, by the influence of Sukriti acquired over many lifetimes, he can obtain the mercy of Ishwar or his Shuddh Bhakta. At that time, he will see in his heart that there is a second individual within the tree of his body. So he's sitting right next to him. So the Lord is right next to us, right within us. But we are not seeing him because we have turned away from him. But he says, when one, through the process of acquiring Sukriti, develops faith for bhakti and gets association of pure devotees, then he will see that the Lord is no place, no far away. He is right there within my heart. And this is the Ishwar who is served eternally by his unalloyed devotees. And when the jiva witnesses, when he turns his face towards the Lord and he understands the uncommon glories of the Lord, he becomes free from all lamentation. So, and then he quotes another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, and this verse is from the 10th canto, 51st chapter, and this is verse number 53. And this is in the story of King Muchukunda, and how King Muchukunda gets the darshan of the Lord. And then in his prayers, King Muchukunda is saying, Bhav apavargo brahmato yada bhaveta janasya tarhi achyut sant samagamah sant sangamoho yarhi tadaiv satgatau parvareshu tvai jayate ratihi. So he says here, bhav apavargo brahmato. Brahmato means wandering in this cycle of birth and death from time immemorial. Janasya tarhi achyut sat samagamah. That if someone gets the association of devotees, then one should understand when the time for his release from the cycle that has been going on since time immemorial, when the time has come for him to become free from this cycle, then he gets the association of devotees. And through this, he becomes firmly attached to you who are the supreme goal of attainment for the sadhus and the controller of both spirit and matter. So basically, the association of devotees, that is the beginning of the process of becoming free from the endless cycle of birth and death. And Lord Kapila also to Mother Devahuti says, Satam prangat mama virya samvidoho bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha tat joshnat ashu apavarga vartamani shraddha rati bhakti anukramishati. So he says, Satam prasangat mama virya samvadoho. Today also in the class, Bhagavatam class also, we recited this verse that when someone associates in the association of my devotee, Satam prasangat mam virya samvidoho, he hears about my pastimes. Then Bhavantir Hitakarana Rasayana Katha, all these pastimes are so sweet. They are very relishable by the ears. So especially when if one hears this from pure devotees, like when Shri Gurudev would speak, many of our elevated devotees, when they speak, you can sit and hear for hours and hours because Hari Katha is so sweet. If you're getting nectar, if you're relishing something, why would you want that nectar to stop, right? So this nectar of Hari Katha is very, very relishable. So he says that one who is hearing this nectarian topics of Krishna Katha, by repeatedly relishing those topics, what happens? Tat joshnat apavarg vartmani shraddha rati bhakti hi anukramishyati. So one by one, first what will develop? Rati. Some some attraction for Hari Katha will develop. From there, first Shraddha will develop, some faith, from then some attachment, and then Bhakti. So in the 9 step process, also Bhakti, that starts from Adav Shraddha, Sadhu Sang, Anarth Nivritti, Bhajan Kriya. Right? So first Shraddha, then Bhajan Kriya, part of Bhajan Kriya is Shravanam, and then Nishtha, Asakti, Ruchi, Bhav, and then Prem. Like this, the Bhakti Lata Beach, the seed of Bhakti, grows into a beautiful creeper on which the sweet and fragrant, colorful flowers of pure loving devotion to Shri Krishna, they bloom. So through this, he is explaining that this Nitya Sukriti can happen by chance. One can get association of the devotees from the Sukriti from previous lives, and that Sukriti could happen just by chance. So when Chudamani heard this, then he asked that, in your opinion, is there no difference between Aryan and a Yavan? So Yavan, Aryan, of course, those who are in the Vedic culture, they were called Aryans. And Yavan, those who were outcast from that, which most of the world will follow. But again, as I quoted before, that it is said in our scriptures that in Kali Yuga, everyone is actually a Shudra only. Now, Vaishnav Das ji says that there are two kinds of differences: those that relate to absolute reality, which is paramarthic, and those that are related to practical experience. So he's saying between what he's calling Aryans, those who are in the Vedic culture, and those who are outside of the Vedic culture, or the Yavans as it is called here, there are the differences between them are of two categories. One is from a spiritual perspective, and one is from a more mundane or a social perspective, from the perspective of practical experience. He says when we see from the perspective of spirituality, there is no difference between anyone, right? And you know what, even if we don't say that, take the spiritual perspective, even from a biological perspective, there is no difference between any human being, whether someone is white, black, Indian, American, Muslim, Christian. Everyone has blood which is red in color. Everyone has a heart that has 4 chambers. Everyone has, kidneys and liver, and all these organs in every human body perform the same function. Every human body has the same biochemical reactions that take place within the body. So there is the differences only of the covering, and because of that we create so many differences. So actually, even from a spiritual perspective, of course, there is no difference. But he says, yes, from a social perspective, there may be some differences. Now, when Chudamani hears this, he becomes a bit irritated. He says, why do you insist on repeatedly showing off your verbosity? That he's because he's trying to have Vaishnav Das to admit that yes, there is a difference between the Brahmins, the Aryans, and those who are outside the Varna system. But again, he's saying, no, there is actually no difference from a spiritual perspective, which is a higher perspective, right? But at a lower, more mundane perspective, yes, there is a difference. So he says, what do you mean by practical difference? Mean from a social perspective, what is the difference between Aryans and Yavans? So then Vaishnav Das ji explains, the term practical refers to worldly customs, which is more mundane, right? In domestic life, he says that yes, well, according to social customs, there are certain people you cannot associate with, or they're considered untouchable. And that is because of the birth that they have had. So then Chudamani says, if that is the case, then how can, if there is a difference like that, that you are saying that from birth, they are, because of the birth that they have had, they're untouchable. How can they be the same? How can there be no difference between them from the absolute point of view? So then Vaishnav Das ji says, well, this is affirmed by the scriptures. And that's the verse that we started by, Bhriguvar nar matram tarayet Krishnanam. So nar matram, here it says that any human being, irrespective of whether that person is doing the most abominable things, whether he is born in the most low class society, or someone who is in a very elevated position, when it comes to the spiritual perspective, to chanting the holy name and becoming purified, he says, Nar Matram. Everyone has that eligibility because the holy name is so powerful, just like fire. The fire burns the garbage also, and then a house in which there may be luxurious furniture and there may be also, like plush carpets. So when the fire makes everything one and the same, so similarly, the fire of the holy name burns the anarthas, the unwanted, the contamination in everyone, irrespective of what social structure that person belongs to. So he says, according to this shloka, Yavans and all other human beings have an equal opportunity to attain the supreme goal of life. So Krishna is an equal opportunity employer, right? So here also we have, right, companies say we are an equal opportunity employer, meaning they don't discriminate between caste, creed, community, religion, your orientation. And Krishna, this comes from where? This concept comes from the Lord Himself. Because in His eyes, there is no difference between anyone. Everyone is His part and parcel. So he says, those who are devoid of Nitya Sukriti are known as two-legged animals because they have no faith in Krishna Nam. So he said, in fact, one may be born in a Brahmin family or a higher strata of society. If one does not have faith in the holy name, then he's no better than an animal. Because, as we have discussed many times, what is it that differentiates a human from an animal? Not that we can eat better than them, not that we can defend ourselves with nuclear weapons and they only have their paws and nails to defend themselves, or their sharp teeth. Not that we can sleep in beautiful homes on luxurious beds and they sleep out on in the forest. Not that we can have children in nice hospitals and they do they have their kids born on the street. That's not the difference. The difference is that they cannot inquire about the supreme absolute truth, whereas in a human body we can inquire about that. So that is the difference. And if that we are not doing, then he says we are no better, we are actually just two-legged animals. So such people have no human qualities even though they have attained the human birth. Then he quotes from Mahabharata, and this is the verse that every time before we honor Prasadam, we sing Maha Prasade Govinde Namne Brahmane Vaishnave Nam Brahmane Vaishnave Sulpa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwasvana Jayate. So what does that mean? O king, one whose past pious deeds are very meager, Swalpam Punyavatam Rajan, that, O king, someone who from his previous lives has very meager pious deeds, does not have faith in Mahaprasad, in Sri Govinda, in Sri Krishnanam, or in the Vaishnavas. And we see that many times people don't have faith in all these things. So it says such people, in fact, are not fit to be called humans. So So then he continues to explain that Nimittik Sukriti is insignificant Sukriti that does not have the power to awaken Shraddha towards transcendental objects. So, as he had explained before, that type of Sukriti which is not related to Bhakti, so those are just general pious deeds which are being done because of a cause other than Bhakti, those things cannot awaken faith for the names of the Lord, faith in the Lord himself or in his devotees. So he says that these in the material world, there are only four transcendental objects that awaken spiritual consciousness, which is Mahaprasadam, Govind, Govindanam, and the Vaishnavas. So Mahaprasadam is so important. Therefore, we should honor it properly, right? As we're discussing this morning also, it is not different from Krishna. We should never even waste a small portion of Mahaprasadam. If we are eating at the temple and we are not able to finish it, take it home. And if for some reason you're not able to finish it, feed it to some animal, or otherwise just go and put it in a pond of water or put it under some flower in the flower beds, or under a tree, but never throw it like that in the garbage. So I think I was telling before also once, Sadanand Prabhu, who's at our farm here, in Texas, it's amazing that how he honors prasadam, very, very instructive. He takes in his plate, which doesn't have any divisions, one single plate, puts the Mahaprasadam in there, and literally, makes the plate clean by making sure that not even a grain of rice or not even a drop of dal is left. So this is what is understanding that Mahaprasadam is non-different from the Lord himself. So he's explaining through this that, well, even if, so he's basically saying you are distinguishing based on someone's birth. But the fact is, someone who does not have faith in the holy name, someone who does not have faith in Mahaprasadam, someone who's not inquiring about the supreme absolute truth, he's actually a two-legged animal. And a two-legged animal is even inferior to a human. And so you are differentiating between Aryans and the Yavanas, those who are in the Varna system and outside, but in fact, they are even someone who does not have faith in this, then they are actually like two-legged animals. So unfortunately, that's the condition of the society today, and that's why we see so much, disturbance in the society. People are losing faith in the holy name, and even in the name of religion, so many wrong things are being perpetrated. So then Chudamani becomes a bit irritated. He says, what kind of strange idea is this? You are saying that rice, dal, sabji that you offer to the deity. Now, of course, remember that they don't have faith in the deity of the Lord as the Lord himself, right? So those who are in the Gyan Marg or who are performing Dhyan Yoga, they just consider the deity as an instrument to help them focus their mind. They don't believe that there's a spiritual aspect to the deity, and therefore they don't worship the deities the same way as in the Vaishnav temples. So they don't even offer bhog. And so he's saying, how can, and he says this is actually fanaticism of the Vaishnavas, that how can rice, dal, and vegetables be spiritual? I mean, these are mundane things. You pluck the vegetables. How can something like this, which is in his mind something inert, be spiritual? So Vaishnav Dasji says, so he's kind of saying that Vaishnavas are fanatics and they do all kind of crazy things. So then Vaishnav Dasji says that, well, whatever you do, please do not criticize the Vaishnavas. This is my humble request. So he's cautioning him that, you know, we are having a debate, we are having a discussion. And he says, in a debate, one should argue the points in question. What is the use of deriding the Vaishnavas? So he's cautioning him because by committing offenses against the devotees, and here in this assembly, these are all very, very elevated devotees. By committing offenses against the devotees, the Bhakti Lata Bij, the little sprout of bhakti that is coming out of that seed, is completely destroyed. Just like that's why the Vaishnava Aparadh is called the mad elephant offense. Just like a mad elephant comes in a garden and he runs around and all the beautiful flowers are destroyed by being trampled under the feet of the mad elephant. So similarly, offending the Vaishnavas is very, very dangerous for our spiritual life. So he's saying, well, if we have this discussion, there is a possibility. Now he's thinking that this person may develop some Shraddha for Vaishnav Dharma. But if right at this point he starts committing these offenses, then there is no hope for him. So he says, please, let's just have this question answers. You are asking, and I'm trying to just respond to you patiently with evidence from the scriptures. So please do not criticize the Vaishnavas. So then he explains the glories of Mahaprasadam. He says actually Mahaprasadam develops one's spiritual consciousness, and there's so many examples. Actually, this is part of our preaching to go and distribute prasadam. So many devotees every single day they cook so much prasad, offered so much bhoga, offer it to the Lord, and then go and distribute it. Food distribution is one of the biggest activities that devotees all over the world do. Because by taking this Mahaprasad, they are doing Sukriti. So it says Mahaprasad provokes spiritual consciousness and dissolves one's materialistic nature. So it is the only food that is acceptable in this material world. So he's basically saying that if anything other than Mahaprasad actually has a reaction. And as long as our actions have reactions, the karma cycle will not come to an end. So even though one may be vegetarian, but even in eating vegetarian food, there is some sin, right? So, for example, when you pluck the vegetables, you may be sometimes killing the plant. And when you're cooking, there are insects that get killed. So there is some sin in there as well. And especially like Krishna says in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that one who cooks for his own sense enjoyment, he's verily eating sin. So even in eating vegetarian food, according to the scriptural rules, there is a reaction. Then how do we become free from that reaction? By cooking with the mood of serving this to the Lord and then taking offering to him and then taking Mahaprasham. That same food now becomes very powerful. It is sanctified. There is no reaction. In fact, it helps us grow in our spiritual consciousness. And then he quotes from Ishopanishad. It's a very beautiful verse, and this is the first verse after the invocation in Sri Ishopanishad. This verse says, Ishavasya idam sarvam yat kinch jagatyam jagat ten tyakten bhunjita ma gridah tas kasya with dhanam. He says, Ishavasam idam sarvam, that everything that we see in the world, whether that is animate or whether it is inanimate, is situated within the Supreme Lord, and everything is pervaded by Him. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate. So yat kinch jagatyam jagat, everything that we see in the material and the spiritual world. So he says, therefore, ten tyaktena bhunjita. Therefore, one should not have, one should accept, one should not be attached to these things because these do not belong to us, right? He's the one who's the creator. And whatever one gets by the arrangement of the Lord for one's maintenance, one should accept that, considering that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord and not try to uh, become attached to another person's wealth. So now he explains a very, very important concept. He says we need to develop this consciousness. We need to develop this mood that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord. One will give up the worldly minded spirit of enjoyment if he considers everything to be related to Sri Hari's spiritual potency. So, this is the art of Krishna consciousness. When we start seeing that everything is related to the Lord, to His spiritual potency, and that we are not the proprietor of those things, then we will start seeing His potency in each and everything. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Raso aham apsu, that in the water he is the taste, he is the potency, the energy within the sun, and he is the fragrance within the flower. So like this he explains that it is he only by whose potency everything has the ability to their qualities, whether it's the water, whether it's the sun, whether it's the food. So everything is getting their potency through Krishna, and it is Him only. So he says, if one sees everything like this, then our mundane attachment to those things will go away. Right now, we see everything as an object of our own sense gratification. But when we see this, that everything is related to the Lord, then our mood will be of service. Our mood would be of honoring, not enjoying. And same thing as Mahaprasadam. So, when we sometimes see, oh wow, today nice makhani paneer and the also makhani dal and shahi paneer and beautiful sabji and naan or puris are there and nice halwa. Oh, we start enjoying it just like delicious food. But that's not honoring, right? If we, of course, that has a lot of benefit, but if the mood is of honor, then we will honor it in a way not to enjoy our tongue, the taste for our tongue, but seeing this as the potency of the Lord, and honoring as we would honor anything related to the Lord, right? So like, and when I've seen that when Shri Gurudev would honor prasadam, when he would come, of course, we all will cook, and so many devotees will bring many, many other preparations. So sometimes there will be like 15, 20 preparations on the plate. But Gurudev was sitting, and never I've seen it. It was so inspiring that like we become so attached, like they say, right? Laat tapakne lagti hai. Your mouth starts watering. But Gurudev will be in a very peaceful, composed. He will just look at it, fold his hands, say his prayers, and very quietly one morsel from each, just to keep everyone's heart, because everyone wanted that Gurudev should eat my preparation. He would honor everything, and only never like we end up overeating, but he would in a very, very quiet and in a respectful way honor Mahaprasadam. So he's saying like this, if we start seeing everything related to Sri Hari's potency, then our attachment to those things will go away. An introspective jiva will not be degraded if he accepts only those worldly things that are necessary for the maintenance of his body, considering them to be the remnants of Sri Hari. The remnants of food and other articles offered to Bhagwan are known as Mahaprasad. So he says this Mahaprasad has so much potency, because in fact it is not different from the Lord. And Mahaprasadam is not just the food items. Sometimes like the deities, they're offered different garlands. So when that garland is given to you, we honor it, and that is also Mahaprasad. Or the deities' clothes sometimes are given as prasad. So all this is Mahaprasad. But he says it is very unfortunate that even though you claim to know what is written in the scriptures, but you have no faith in Mahaprasadam. So then Chudamani, after hearing this, he is now running out of arguments, so he wants to change the subject. He says, well, let us drop this subject and return to the original point of our discussion. What was his discussion? What is the proper behavior between the Yavans and you people? So he's coming back again and again to more of a social way of associating with these with Muslims. And again, here, of course, for as because of the storyline, it is Muslims, but this applies to anyone, everyone who is considered outcast according to the Vedic system. So he says, well, now, as long as someone stays tied to their practices based on that particular, like in this case, the Muslims, then he says, we remain indifferent to them. We don't criticize them. We don't dishonor them, but we stay indifferent to them. But if someone accepts the Vaishnav Siddhanta, someone accepts the holy name of the Lord, then by the influence of Nitya Sukriti, they cannot be considered, as he has given so much proof that then that person cannot be considered an outcast. He is very worshipable. And then he quotes two verses from Hari Bhakti Vilas. And the first verse is actually from Padma Puran, which says that if one considers a devotee of Bhagwan to be a member of the lowest of the four castes, a member of an aboriginal tribe of hunters, or an outcast dog eater, merely because the devotee has taken birth in such families, one is assuredly destined for hell. So, not that person who has taken birth in a low caste family is destined to hell. He's saying that a person who considers such a person to be low caste, when that person has actually accepted the devotional process, that person is actually destined for hell. And similarly, he quotes another verse from Hari Bhakti Vilas, where the Lord is saying, Name priya chaturvedi mat bhaktah shvapachah priya tasmai deyam tato grahayam sahacha puja yatha hi aham. He says that a Brahman who has studied the four Vedas but has no bhakti is not dear to me. Whereas my bhakta, my devotee, is very dear to me, even if he has taken birth in a family of dog eaters. Such a devotee is fit to receive charity, and whatever he offers should be accepted. Indeed, he is as worshipable as I am. So much evidence he is giving that it is the bhakti which is the yardstick, not what birth one has. It is how elevated one is in their mood of, in their bhakti, determines that whether that person has to be honored or not, right? So a person may be a Brahman, but Krishna is saying that even if he has studied the four Vedas, but if he has no bhakti, as we were discussing today also, the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, dharmaha swanishtitaha punsaha, that even if one is following all the activities of one's occupation, but if na utpadaya the yadi ratim, but if he one does not develop rati or bhakti attachment to the katha of the Lord, then he says shram evahi kevalam, then it is simply useless labor. It is an effort that is just all the study of the Vedas is in fact useless labor. So Chudamani says, okay, well, I understand that. But can a Grihasth Vaishnav make a marriage relationship with a Yavan family? Can someone who is a Brahman or is a Vaishnav, can he marry someone who is in the Yavan family or the Muslim family? Now, he gives a very detailed uh, answer to this question. And the gist of the answer that Vaishnav Das gives is that from a social customs perspective, someone who is a householder, and if he's not elevated yet to the extent that being completely situated in the Siddhanta, he has developed detachment from all the social customs, till that time he should follow what the social customs are, so that to maintain the peace and structure in the society. Now, this is a point to understand that while from a spiritual perspective there is no difference, but from a social perspective, there may be not a lot of acceptance because people are still so much in ignorance, which was the case when this pastime is taking place also when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's time, the level of ignorance and these misconceptions was so strong that people would not appreciate this very universal perspective of the scriptures that everyone is eligible for bhakti and one who's performing bhakti is worshipable. So people would not understand it. So it's saying that therefore, as a social custom, as a practical experience, well, marriage, since it is one of the 10 social rites or sanskars, then one can, one should not marry like this. Now, this is what it is, now these are not eternal instructions. That's what we have to understand. These are based on the time, circumstance, and place, and the sensitivities of the society at that time. The acharyas will give such instructions. Like Jiva Goswami also, he's uh, following Rupa Goswami, but Rupa Goswami spoke about Parakiya Bhav. But Jiva Goswami during that time, the people were not very appreciative of it. Their level was not that. So he concealed it by seemingly glorifying Swakaya Bhav. So sometimes acharyas do that because people are not at that level. But then when Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur came and then Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, so they, by because of all the groundwork that had been done by Bhaktivinoda Thakur and slowly by the preaching of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, then there was better understanding. And as Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj came here, then he gave Vaishnav initiation to people who otherwise, from the concept of these Brahmins, would be considered outcast. He gave them initiation, made them Vaishnav, and they were also married to each other. So there were many, many examples that we have in the Vaishnav community all over the world where someone who is actually, let's say, born in India and even in a Brahmin family is married to someone who's from the West. So now, because there is a better understanding and appreciation that these things are only external. So we live in a time which in that sense is much better. There is much more openness to understanding the true meaning of what the scripture says. But at the same time, sometimes in the past and today also, sometimes because of the social customs, things are done just so that not to create disturbance in the society. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So Haridas Thakur, who was from a Muslim family, but he was chanting 300,000 times the holy name every single day, called Nam Acharya. But Mahaprabhu, but he was not allowed to enter, Haridas Thakur was not allowed to enter the Jagannath temple in Puri. So that was a custom then. It is a custom today also that if you're not from a Hindu family, and there also they have certain restrictions, you cannot go inside the Jagannath temple. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he also did not change that custom. He is the Supreme Lord himself. Could he not change it? But he did not. He would go to Jagannath temple every single day for darshan, and the Mahaprasad that he will get from there every single day directly from there, he would go to the cottage of Haridas Thakur and give it to him. And Haridas Thakur will say, "Oh Prabhu, I am so fallen, I am so abominable. If someone, even my shadow falls on someone, that person has to go and take bath." And Mahaprabhu did not agree. He said, "No, you are Namacharya. You are the spiritual master of the holy name." So Mahaprabhu followed this, where from a Paramarthic perspective, spiritual perspective, he was glorifying Haridas Thakur. But from a social custom perspective, he also did not want to disturb the social customs at that time. So this is what he's explaining in the answer to this question. And then he gives a very beautiful point. He says, well, uh, one can give up these social customs when one becomes uh, when these customs become unfavorable to bhajan. So similarly, a Yavan who has awakened faith in bhakti has the right to give up the association of the Yavan community if it becomes unfavorable to bhajan. Suppose that one Vaishnav is an Aryan who is qualified to give up the four Varnas, and another Vaishnav is a Yavan who is qualified to give up his community, then what is the difference between them? Both of them have given up ordinary life and have become brothers in regard to spiritual reality. And that's how we see we have a large family of Vaishnav devotees all over the world. We have so many God brothers and God sisters from all different backgrounds, from all different faiths, all different religions, all different communities, but we are all united in our devotion to Krishna. So he says they are just like brothers. Now, whatever their past was is immaterial. So now they have a spiritual identity, and this is regarding the spiritual reality. They become God brothers. They become brothers. But so he says, but at the same time, of course, those who are in the grihast, unless they have fully qualified and unless they have completely developed that faith, then he says they should try and follow these customs. And then he quotes, and we will come to the end in another couple of minutes. He quotes one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is from the 11th canto, 11th chapter, and this is verse number 32. And this is Sri Krishna is speaking to Uddhav, and he says, अज्ञाय एवं गुणान दोषान मया दिष्टान अपि स्वकान धर्मान संत्यज्य यह सर्वान माम भजेत स तु सत्तमः. He says that I have given in the Vedic scriptures the duties that a human being should follow, explaining what are positive attributes and what are false. One is considered the best of sadhu if he knows all this but abandons his duties to worship me exclusively with the firm conviction that all perfection may be attained by bhakti alone. So, this is another important point that we have been discussing, that Krishna says, even though I've created the Varna system, but even if that comes in the path of executing pure devotional service, then one should give it up. That's why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, Eho Bahya, when in his conversations with Rai Ramanand Roy, the first thing when Rai Ramanand said that Varnashram, following the Varnashram system is the sadhan, the process, Mahaprabhu says this is external. And therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, also Krishna says, Sarva dharman paritejya mamekam sharanam vraj. He's clearly saying that give up all kind of religion. Sarva dharman, within which it includes Varnashram Dharma and all other kind of religions which are not pure bhakti, which are not pure Vaishnav Dharma. He says, give them all up and surrender unto me. I will free you from all kind of sins. If there is any sin, if you are fearful of incurring any sinful reactions because of scared of giving up these other religions, then Krishna says, don't be scared. I will protect you from all these sinful reactions. And then finally, he quotes another verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna is saying, Yada yasya anugrahnati bhagwan atma bhavitah sajahati matim loke vede cha parinishtitam. He says, Bhagwan bestows his mercy upon a jeev with whom he is pleased because of his self-surrender or serving him with complete absorption of his inner faculties. At that time, the jiva gives up attachment for all social customs and religious rituals prescribed by the Vedas. So, what he's trying to say, that when we are in a conditioned state and when we are in a very beginning stages, right, people may follow all these rituals, the various karam kanda things that are given in the smart scriptures. But when one understands the supremacy of bhakti, the supremacy of the holy name, the supremacy of Hari Katha, then all of these other things he gives up without any fear, because he develops this firm faith. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Sudrir Nishchay. Krishna bhakti kaile sarva karma krit hoy. That he develops a strong faith that if I am doing bhakti to Krishna, if I'm engaging in devotional limbs of devotional devotion, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, then Sarva Karma Kritva, everything else is taken care of. I don't have to follow any other fast. I don't have to do any other puja. I don't have to worship any other demigods. Many, especially those, first who come from India, because of where we are, which state, which community, there's so many family traditions and customs that we have been following. And sometimes, devotees are fearful, oh, if I give it up, for example, for the during the Devi Puja days, those Navratra, we used to, sow some the wheat grains in a pot, and then those will come out, and then after that, do a certain ritual. But now, when one comes to the path of bhakti, he understands that there is no spiritual significance in all these things. It was just out of some emotions or family tradition that we were doing it. Well, you can do it, no harm, but there is no um, spiritual benefit of it. So even if you don't do it, you are not going to get any sinful reaction. So this faith a devotee develops, that if I'm doing bhakti, I'm doing bhajan, then everything else is taken care of. So we'll stop here and see if anyone has any questions. We can take any questions. We are almost towards the end of this chapter. So the next Sunday, we will have our last class of this course on Jaiva Dharma. We will finish this chapter. And if Guru and Gauranga are merciful, then after a couple of months, we will start the next part of the first section of Jaiva Dharma. So if anyone has any questions or any comments, observations. Okay. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to
Hare
send
Krishna,
them. Yes, Angel Prabhu.
Thank you for a very nice class. I really enjoyed the part about the glories of Mahaprasadam, that it's non-different from Krishna. Can you talk a little bit more about where Krishna says to abandon all the other spiritual practices and varieties of religion? Because after a while, we should lose interest in things that don't have to do with Krishna consciousness, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So anything specific, like, um, when you say
Coming
talk a little
from
bit more about what's your anything specific that you want to understand in there?
coming from a Christian background, my father was a preacher. We did a lot of like outreach and ministry and things like that. And so, and then I got introduced to Srila Prabhupada's books at a very young age. So it was always like, well, Krishna is qualitatively, I mean, excuse me, Jesus is qualitatively part and parcel of Krishna, right? Because he's qualitative part and parcel of God. So I used to always, had a place for Christ, maybe have something on the altar or discuss,
Mhm.
philosophical topics from the Bible. But now it's, I mean, I still preach to Christians where they're at and try to make that relation to them. But as far as myself, like I don't think I have a picture of Jesus or the Virgin Mary in my room, but I have so many pictures of Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so see, the point is that as one understands that ultimately there is only one supreme, and once you develop that strong faith that that supreme is Krishna, and not because we call him Krishna, it's because whoever is that supreme has all kind of potencies, all kind of qualities, all kind of rasas, and all other forms that we worship are all within him. So if he's being worshipped, then whether it is Jesus, whether it is Lord Ram, whether it is Lord Nrsimha, whether it is Ganesh, everyone is automatically worshipped if one is worshipping Shri Krishna. So that faith is what is very critical for developing one pointed devotion. Because unless that faith develops, the mind will keep wandering towards different path, and that fear will stay. I still see many times, sometimes our congregational members, we go, even though they've been coming to the temple and associating, but they still, when you go on their altar, they have so many different pictures and deities. So it is either because of some attachment or because of some fear, which is fine. See, the point is not to disrespect, not to dishonor anyone, but slowly and gradually, as one understands, and the uh, the the yardstick or the test of one making progress in the path of bhakti is this only, that one develops this faith. So, to the extent that one develops this firm faith that worshipping Krishna includes everything, to that extent, one bhakti will develop, right? Till that point, we will not become one pointed. Till that point, we are not having faith in the words of the Lord Himself. So in your particular case, and the case of many, like for example, we also, even though I grew up in an Indian family, but in our family, right from childhood, we never had a picture. We didn't even have a picture of Krishna. I never really, heard much about Krishna, and we were more, had the picture of Lord Ram, and I used to do Hanuman Chalisa every day. But slowly, as we understood, my father used to worship Devi, my mother used to worship Guru Nanak. So all of us were doing different things. But as we came into in the shelter of Shri Gurudev and started understanding that all of them are in the position of Guru. So whether it's Guru Nanak Dev, or whether it's Devi, Bhagwati Devi, or Hanumanji, they're all like spiritual masters. They themselves are great devotees of the Lord. And by their mercy and whatever we were doing worship to them, with some mood of sincerity, they only then guided us. Just like here we see that in the story of Lubdhak, Lord Shiva, he blessed that hunter with bhakti of Sri Hari, of Krishna. So by their mercy, we got to the path of Krishna bhakti. Same thing, Jesus is the Son of God. He's a great spiritual teacher, and by his mercy, because ultimately every spiritual teacher wants us to make progress, and they will slowly guide us to the right path, right? So all of us have gone through this process of where we were attached to different type of rituals, different type of religious activities, because just from the place where we were born, the community we were born in, our family traditions. But as we understood the uniqueness and the supremacy of all like how bhakti is encompassing, it includes everything. It was very easy to give up everything else, right? So, so I think you are in the similar, many devotees, many people experience exactly the same thing, what you have experienced also.
And this other part, you're talking about like the material designation of how we identify, and then whenever we pick up the path of the Bhagavad Dharma, that whatever we were doing before is not really like pertinent. But so to say, if somebody, we used to have designations like, oh, I'm this body, I'm this occupation, and whatever these things are. Later on, we shed most things. The only thing we retain is anything that relates to our service.
Yes, yes, and that's exactly the mood that we want to come to, right? That we do not. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tat paratven nirmalam rishikesha rishikena sevanam bhaktir uttama. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam. So upadhi means designation. To become free from all kind of designations. So whether the designation is and that I was American, or I was, a certain profession, I was a certain religion. All of these are basically designations, because these have nothing to do with our spiritual spiritual identity. So, and there's a very beautiful verse where it says, Naham vipra nacha narpati napi vaishya na shudra, Naham varani nacha grihipati na vanastha yati vaha, Kintu prodyan nikhil parmanandaha, Punamritabhe gopi bhartu pad kamaleho das das anudasaha. This is the a process that we have to go through where we come to this understanding that Naham Varani Nacha Narpati, that I don't belong to any kind of Varna. I am neither a Brahman, nor a Kshatriya, nor a Shudra, nor a Vaishya. I am not a Brahmachari. I am not a householder. I am not a Vanprasi. I am not a sannyasi. Even if a sannyasi thinks I am a sannyasi, even that's a designation. So he says, not that. Na vanastha yatirva. Yatirva means I'm not even a sannyasi. So who am I? Kintu prodyan nikhil parmanandah purnamritabdhe gopi bhartu pad kamaleo das das anudas. So my only identity is that I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis, the maid servants of Srimati Radhika, the gopis, the damsels of Vrindavan. So that is the real identity, that I am an eternal servant of Krishna and in this particular specific mood. So all that, everything else is external and it is temporary, and we need to get rid of those designations, right? That's the whole process of bhakti. If we stay attached to those designations, then it's almost like rowing a boat, but you are still tied to the shore, and you may keep rowing, 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 but the boat will not move forward, right? So we have to
Right.
start seeing or realizing that we are not all these different designations. Ultimately, our relationship is of love with Shri Krishna, right? In these different rasas.
It's important to lose the designation because, like, if we're chanting or we're trying to be absorbed in some Hari Katha and we're abiding by those designations, but like say, just for example, like if we're sitting in Hari Katha and all of a sudden my mind tells me something like, oh, they never talk about Jesus or something like that. You know, it might seem valid to my mind, but really it's taking me away from being able to be absorbed in the hearing process, correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I think
so
somebody else.
those, those previous sanskars, the previous concepts we have, it takes time for them to go away, right? And that's where the association is so important, right? So throughout, again today also, many of the verses, as it was clearly saying that it is the association of the devotees by which one makes progress in spiritual life. So therefore, one thing we should always strive for is to have association. In the years that I have been on this path, I have seen it that those who drift away from the path are the ones who stop associating with the devotees, either because they got upset because of something or some other reason. The moment you stop the association and you think, oh, I can just sit at home and I can read the books and I can chant on my own, slowly, because the mind is so powerful, the Maya is so powerful that slowly will drift you away. So, of course, we have to find the right devotees, but we should always strive. That's one thing we should always do, is somehow or the other should strive for association with the devotees, and then we will stay fixed on the path of bhakti.
Very nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Anyone else? Any question? So, thank you again once, everyone. Thanks for joining. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Sham. Shri Gurudev ki Jai.
Jai.